Good morning and welcome to this introduction to Palace of Prospects. Palace of Prospects is the board game that I'm working on, and it's a cooperative deck building dungeon crawler, which means that in this game all 4 players work together, each building a deck of action cards to advance through a randomized dungeon, defeating monsters by playing combos of cards and then collecting rewards. So at the start of the game, each player picks a character and randomly selects a deck to start the game with. And I will explain more about that later. But as the game progresses, each player has opportunities to add more cards to their deck to improve their deck or character stats. So I was talking about the cards and the decks, and the most important one is the action deck. Action cards are the most important form of cards that you use during this game, as you use them during combat. And in combat you have to chain action cards together in a combo with the players next to you in order to defeat monsters. These are your action cards. So action cards, as you can see here, have a value, a name, an affinity, a description, and a direction of play. The value is a number from 1 through 10, and it determines when the action card can be played. The name is flavor. This affinity can either be dusk, dawn, light, or shadow, and in this case, it's shadow, and that too determines when the card can be played. The description explains the effects that will happen when you play the action card. So in this case, it deals 6 damage, and you can discard a card to deal bonus damage. But besides that, you could have cards that let you draw, let other players draw action cards, distribute cards from your hand to other players, or any other random or strong effect. Then there is the direction of play, and that's at the end of every action card. It says the player to your right plays next, or the player to your left plays next. The direction of play is really important because it means that if the player after you can't play an action card, a combo breaks and that player takes damage. Sometimes even all players take damage, according to which monsters you're facing. So it can be pretty horrific. So every player starts with a starting deck, and that means they have 3 of every 1 value card from the affinity they start with, which in this case means that you have 6 1 value cards, as every affinity has 2 different 1 value cards. They have 2 2 value cards, 1 3 value, and 1 4 value, and all from the same affinity. This affinity is also the affinity that's now associated with the player. And throughout the game, players can get more action cards to add to their deck to make them stronger, and as players advance to higher levels, the action cards they can obtain are also stronger. More specifically, action cards can be added to your deck every time players advance to another floor, or when they buy them in shops. So now I want to talk to you about the character cards, because character cards are very important. It's literally the character you play as. As I told you before, as well as a starting deck, each player chooses a character to start off the game, and that ranges from bards to paladins to guides and jesters, and every class has 3 statistics and an ability. So you have a starting hand, which is this trait, and it says how many action cards this character has in their hand at the start of a round, minimum. Velocity, which determines how far above the previous value the player can play with their next action card. Initiative, which is right here, which determines the maximum value that a player can start a round with. Your statistics count as health in Palace of Prospects, which means that monsters you face can deal damage to your ability to play action cards. And if one of your statistics reaches beyond its minimum, your character dies. But players can revive you, there are ways, so do not fret, it's not the end. Affinity Complementation means that you can use your velocity to play that amount below the action card played before you. So, as an example, if I play a 3 value light action card and the next player has a 1 value shadow action card, they can play it. If they have enough velocity to do so. So if they have at least 2 velocity, they can play a 1 shadow action card. Affinity Complementation is there to ensure that combos don't just fail as soon as a maximum amount of value is reached. So let's say on floor 4, everyone has a maximum of 5 value, and a 5 value action card gets played. A round isn't necessarily over right now, because with the use of Affinity Complementation, the players can sort of waive the values. They can play 1, then a 3, then a 5, then a 3, then a 2, then a 4, then a 2, then a 1. By those means, they can get a combo going for longer, so they take less damage during a fight. The last thing characters have to offer is their ability, and this ability is portrayed here in the middle of the card. In the case of a bard's ability, it's called Confidence, and it means they can play action cards with the same value as the action card played before it. That's really strong, but there are other abilities that do things ranging from letting you play action cards outside of your turn, to expending gold to play action cards that you couldn't play otherwise. Besides that, and that's not present here, every character has a character quest or a personal objective that is tied to their ability. Which means that basically if a character uses their ability a certain number of times or to play a certain number of value, their entire deck will upgrade, making the character much stronger. In the case of the Bard, this means that if the Bard uses his confidence ability or their confidence ability to play a total of 30 value of action cards, all the action cards in their deck upgrade, and they become super strong for the rest of the game, by the way. So the next thing I want to talk about is the map, because Palace of Prospect is played on a randomized map, and the map stretches over 10 floors, and you always start on floor 1 and climb up. On the map you can find 6 different kinds of rooms. So the first one is a combat room, in which all players within the room will face a monster or multiple monsters. And after defeating a monster, they will gain gold equal to the amount of value they have defeated. The second one is a shop. It's portrayed here. And in shops, there is a selection of 3 item cards and 3 Eclipse action cards, which I will come back to, displayed for purchase. And here, players can use their gold to buy items. And the third one is the item room, in which players can get items for free. There is reroll rooms, in which players can reroll other rooms. So you have to think, all these rooms, or most of these rooms, are dice. And dice can be rolled, and they contain either one of 6 rooms. So if a path doesn't suit you, or doesn't suit the players, you can travel to a reroll room in order to make the path more profitable to the players. There is the warp-in room, which gives you the opportunity to warp another player toward you. And there are campfires portrayed with a question mark here. And in campfires you can either heal one trait by one, remove one card from your deck, or pick an action card of your choice from the common deck. No matter which path players take before the 10th floor, they will come together to face the boss. But that doesn't mean you can just advance from floor 9 to floor 10, because there is something called a boss barrier. And the boss barrier is something that has to be broken down in order to face the boss in a boss battle. So all players must have worked together to reach a certain goal. And that can be have 8 or more item cards, or have a total of 30 gold. If all players together don't have the necessary means to break down this boss barrier, the game ends and everyone loses. And everything you've done before it will be for naught. Before you can face the boss, you will have to face monsters. And that's the next thing I want to talk about. So you'll see here an example of a monster. And they have a couple of stats. So they have health, an attack, an ability, an affinity, and a value, or strength. Basically, health is always a flat amount plus a margin that scales with the floor number. So if you encounter this monster at floor 5, it will have 12 plus 4 times 5, which is 20 health. Besides that, they have an ability, and they have an attack, and the attack goes off every time a combo ends. That means it goes off when the next player can't play an action card, or when another monster dies. They have an ability too, and every monster has another ability that triggers upon defeat or at another specified moment, and they often affect the flow of combat. They have an affinity, and the affinity of the monster dictates which player has to play the first action card. If it has the Dusk affinity, as this one does, the player with the Dusk affinity will have to move first. If the player with the Dusk affinity is not in combat, the player with the most Dusk action cards in their deck will play first. Then they have a strength value. And the strength value determines on what floor the monster can be encountered and how much gold players will be rewarded for defeating the monster. So if you face a monster whose strength is half the floor number or lower, a second monster is drawn. This means that if you face a 2 strength monster on floor 4, you can draw another 4 value monster and face a total of 6 value, or a total of 6 strength. In that case, good luck. But 2 is not enough. You will be tested. Then, off to the items. And items can be bought in the shop, and they can be obtained in item rooms. Basically, all items have either a passive or an active function and a value. The value is their cost in the shop. So you have to pay 10 coins to obtain the rainbow. And the rainbow has an active effect, which is, you can see here, the arrow means you can flip the card, and a flipped card can be used again. If you activate the rainbow, you can play any action card without the proper affinity or value. So it's just a freebie to reset a combo or something. And I think that is all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed. I will come back with more videos with their subjects ranging from selling action cards to buy items. Is that possible? Yes, that's possible, and I will tell you about it. I will tell you more about how the campfire works. I will tell more about the Eclipse action cards, which I haven't shown here, so you'll have to watch again some other time. I'll give you a rundown of all the characters in the next video, and there will be more to talk about, because it is a complex game. I hope you all like this, and if you do, you can like it. If you want to keep up to date, you can, you know what to do. And please let me know what you think. Are there things I can do differently? Are there things you like? Are there things you have questions about? If you have questions, just let me rant about it in another video, but I can't know if you don't let me know. And I will see you all in another video.